Bennett. My boss's voice cut through the music, sharp enough to make my stomach drop. I turned slowly, already knowing who I'd see. Grant Mercer stood 10 feet away near the entrance of the club, staring at me like I'd just caught him committing a crime. For a second, neither of us moved. People slipped between us. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed near the bar. But all I could hear was my pulse pounding in my ears. Grant was the last person I expected to see there. At work, he was always controlled. Dark suits, clean desk, calm voice. The kind of manager who could shut down an entire conference room with one look. Tonight, he looked different. No tie, no polished shoes. Just a black jacket, dark jeans, and an expression I had never seen on him before. Fear. I should have looked away, pretended I hadn't noticed him. Instead, I stood there holding a drink I hadn't touched, staring like an idiot. His eyes flicked toward the crowd, then back to me. A second later, he started walking over. Fast. What are you doing here? His voice was low when he reached me. I blinked. Having a drink. His jaw tightened. You know what I mean. Actually, I don't. That came out more defensive than I intended, but I didn't appreciate being questioned like I'd wandered into the office after hours. Grant glanced over his shoulder. Are you here with anyone from work? No, did anyone see me? I saw you. His eyes snapped back to mine. Up close. He looked even more unsettled. There was a faint crease between his brows, and his hand kept opening and closing at his side like he couldn't decide what to do with it. I had worked for him for almost 2 years. I had seen him handle angry clients, missed deadlines, and a company-wide budget cut without raising his voice. But now he looked like one wrong word might break something. Noah. Hearing my first name from him felt strange. Too personal. At the office, I was always Bennett. You can't tell anyone about this. The words landed between us. I stared at him, trying to decide whether I was offended or just confused. I wasn't planning to. He searched my face like he didn't believe me. That bothered me more than it should have. Grant, I'm not going to out you. His shoulders dropped slightly, but the tension didn't disappear. It's complicated. It usually is. For the first time, his expression softened. Just a little. Then a group of guys moved past us, and Grant stepped closer to let them through. His hand touched my arm. It should have lasted half a second. Instead, his fingers stayed there, warm through my sleeve. We both noticed. His gaze dropped to where he was touching me, then lifted back to my face. The room suddenly felt too small. He pulled his hand away. You should go back to your friends. I nodded, even though I hadn't come with anyone. Right. I turned to leave. Noah. I stopped. Grant looked toward the bar, then back at me. He hesitated like the next words were harder than they should have been. Stay for one drink. I should have left. That would have been the smart thing to do. Instead, I followed my boss to the darkest corner of the bar and sat across from him like this was somehow a normal Friday night. Grant chose a booth half hidden behind a brick column. Of course he did. Even outside the office, the man planned for worst-case scenarios. He picked up the drink menu, stared at it for 3 seconds, then set it down without reading a word. You look terrified, I told him. His mouth tightened. I am not terrified. You checked the entrance 4 times. I checked it twice. That is still not helping your argument. For half a second, I thought I had pushed too far. Then he laughed. It was quiet. Barely there. But it caught me off guard because I had never heard that sound at work. Grant smiled in meetings sometimes, but those smiles were controlled. Professional. This one changed his whole face. You are different outside the office, he murmured. My chest tightened. So are you. The smile disappeared, but his eyes stayed on mine. Longer than they needed to. I looked down first. A server stopped at our table, and Grant ordered bourbon. I asked for club soda because my first drink was still mostly full, and apparently being alone with my nervous boss required a clear head. The moment the server left, Grant leaned forward. Who knows you are here? No one from work. That is not what I asked. I frowned. Why does it matter? His fingers tapped once against the table. It does not. That sounded convincing. Grant exhaled and looked toward the dance floor. My family knows people in this city. The company board knows more people than my family does. One photo in the wrong group chat, and suddenly everyone has questions. The fear in his voice was quieter now, more honest. It made my irritation fade. I get it. His gaze returned to me. Do you? I spent 3 years checking who was around before I mentioned a date. So yes, I do. Something shifted in his expression. Not relief exactly. More like recognition. You make it look easy. I let out a small laugh. It is not easy. I am just tired of looking over my shoulder. Grant went still. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The music filled the silence, but it felt distant. Then the server returned. When I reached for my glass, Grant did the same. Our fingers brushed. It was nothing, barely a touch. Still, neither of us pulled away immediately. His hand was warm. Mine suddenly forgot how to move. Grant's eyes dropped to our hands, then lifted to my face. Sorry. He moved back first. It is fine. It was not fine. My pulse had started acting like I had run up 6 flights of stairs. I took a drink and tried to focus on anything else. That was when a guy near the bar caught my eye and smiled. I smiled back without thinking. Across the table, Grant's expression changed. Only slightly. His jaw tightened, and his attention shifted toward the man behind me. Do you know him? No, he seems to know you. I glanced over my shoulder. He smiled at me. Right. The word came out flat. I stared at Grant. Are you interviewing him for a job? That got another laugh, but this one sounded forced. I am making conversation. You are bad at it. His eyes narrowed, amused despite himself. Careful, Bennett. There he is. My boss is back. Grant leaned closer, lowering his voice. Maybe I am trying to figure out whether you came here hoping to meet someone. My stomach dropped. Why would you care? He held my gaze. The space between us felt suddenly too quiet. Then Grant looked away and lifted his glass. I do not, he murmured. But he had answered too slowly, and we both knew it. Grant looked away first, but the question stayed between us. Why would he care who I came there to meet? I told myself he was nervous. That was all. His entire night had gone sideways the second he saw me, and now he was trying to control the only part of the situation he could. Me. It was not jealousy. That would have been ridiculous. You know, I said, turning my glass slowly between my hands. For someone who wants this night forgotten, you are asking a lot of personal questions. His eyes lifted to mine. Am I? You want to know who I came with, who I know, and whether I am trying to meet someone. I gave him a small smile. Should I expect a performance review on Monday? I meant it as a joke. Grant did not laugh. He just watched me. The silence lasted long enough to make my chest tighten. Then his gaze dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. Noah. The way he said my name made the room feel smaller. Before either of us could say anything else, the guy from the bar walked over. He was around my age, friendly smile, denim jacket. Hey, he said, glancing between us. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask if you wanted to join us for a drink. I opened my mouth, but Grant moved first. Not much. Just enough that his shoulder came closer to mine. He is with me. The words came out calm. Automatic. The guy raised his eyebrows. I did too. Grant seemed to realize what he had said a second too late. For work, he added. That somehow made it worse. The guy looked amused. At a gay club? Heat climbed up my neck. Grant's expression went completely blank, which I recognized from meetings right before someone got professionally destroyed. It is complicated. Looks like it. The guy smiled at me once more. Offer stands if it gets less complicated. Then he disappeared back into the crowd. I turned slowly toward Grant. He is with me? Grant rubbed a hand over his jaw. I was trying to get rid of him. You could have let me answer. Would you have gone with him? There it was again. Too quick. Too sharp. My stomach flipped. Maybe. His eyes locked onto mine. Something changed in his face, and for the first time that night, I knew I was not imagining it. He cared. I just did not know why. Before I could push him, a pair of men near the entrance turned in our direction. Grant went rigid. One of them looked familiar from company events. I saw the panic return instantly. Come on. I stood and caught Grant lightly by the sleeve. He let me guide him through the crowd toward a narrow hallway beside the restrooms. It was quieter there, hidden from the main room. Too narrow, too. Grant ended up close enough that I could feel the warmth of him through his jacket. That was Daniel Ross, he murmured. He works with one of our board members. I do not think he saw you. Grant glanced toward the corner, then back at me. His breathing was shallow. Without thinking, I reached up and straightened the collar of his jacket, covering more of his face from the hallway light. My fingers brushed his neck. He froze. So did I? For 1 second, neither of us moved. My hand stayed there, resting against the edge of his collar. Grant's eyes held mine. No office. No titles. No safe explanation. Then his fingers closed gently around my wrist. Not to pull me away, just to hold me there. You do not have to keep taking care of me, he whispered. My pulse jumped under his thumb. Maybe I am not doing it because I have to. Grant's fingers stayed around my wrist. Not tight. Just there. His thumb rested over my pulse, and I knew he could feel how fast it was beating. For one dangerous second, neither of us moved. The hallway felt too narrow. The music from the club came through the wall as a dull rhythm, distant enough that I could hear his breathing. Maybe I am not doing it because I have to. I repeated, quieter this time. Grant's eyes searched mine. There was no panic in them now. That almost made it worse. Then why are you doing it? My mouth went dry. I had a dozen safe answers. Because you looked scared. Because I understand. Because I do not want anyone from work recognizing you. All of them were true. None of them were the whole truth. You are my boss, I managed. One corner of his mouth moved, but it was not a smile. That is not an answer. His hand loosened around my wrist, yet he did not let go. I should have stepped back. Instead, I stayed close enough to notice the faint line of worry between his brows and the way his attention kept dropping to my mouth before snapping back up. What do you want me to say? I whispered. Grant leaned in slightly. Maybe an inch. Maybe less. It was enough to make my chest tighten. Something honest. The air left my lungs. I could have told him that I noticed him at work more than I should. That I knew exactly how he took his coffee and which meetings made him rub the back of his neck afterward. That seeing him scared had changed something in me I was not ready to name. Instead, I tried to joke. You really do turn everything into an interview. Grant did not laugh. His gaze held mine, steady and unreadable. Do you want me to let go? The question was too direct. I looked down at his hand around my wrist. His thumb moved once, barely brushing my skin. I do not know. It was the most honest thing I had said all night. Grant inhaled slowly. His face was close now. Close enough that if either of us leaned forward, there would be no pretending it was accidental. My heart started pounding harder. He noticed. Of course he did. His eyes softened, and for 1 second, I thought he was going to kiss me. I did not move away. Neither did he. Then footsteps sounded around the corner. Grant released me so quickly it felt like waking up. A man in a gray blazer entered the hallway, glanced at us, and kept walking. I recognized him from a company holiday party. Daniel Ross. Grant's whole body went rigid. I stepped in front of him without thinking, blocking Daniel's view until he disappeared into the restroom. When I turned back, Grant had already rebuilt the expression I knew from work. Calm, distant, controlled. We should leave separately, he murmured. The sudden coldness hit harder than it should have. Right. I started toward the club, but his voice stopped me. Noah. I looked back. Grant stood under the dim hallway light, hands at his sides, watching me like he wanted to take back every step of distance between us. What almost happened just now, he paused. My stomach tightened. It cannot happen again. I nodded like that did not hurt. Then Grant added, almost too quietly to hear, because I am not sure I would stop next time. By Monday morning, Grant had turned back into Mr. Mercer so completely that I almost convinced myself Friday night had not happened. Almost. He walked into the conference room in a charcoal suit, set his laptop on the table, and nodded at me the same way he nodded at everyone else. No hesitation. No private look. Not even the smallest sign that he had held my wrist in a dark hallway and admitted he might not stop next time. Bennett, you are leading the client update, he said, already opening the agenda. Just like that. Back to last names. Back to business. I told myself I should be relieved. Instead, my chest tightened. Halfway through the meeting, Claire from accounts leaned toward me and whispered, Did you do something to him? I kept my eyes on the screen. What? Mercer. She lowered her voice. He has looked at you about 12 times. My stomach dropped. He is checking the presentation. Claire glanced at the blank slide behind me. Sure. I ignored her and kept talking, but now I could feel Grant's attention every time it landed on me. Brief. Careful. Gone before anyone else noticed. Except Claire had noticed. Apparently, I was not as good at hiding things as I thought. After the meeting, people gathered near the coffee station. Daniel Ross stood with one of the senior directors, laughing too loudly about something. The second Grant saw him, his shoulders stiffened. Daniel caught my eye and smiled. Noah, right? I forced myself to stay calm. That is me. I think I saw you downtown Friday. Grant went completely still beside the counter. I could feel it without looking at him. Probably, I replied. I was out for a while. Daniel studied my face. You were with someone. Claire looked between us, suddenly interested. Oh, now this sounds good. It was nobody from here. I reached for a coffee cup, hoping the conversation would die. Daniel's gaze shifted past me toward Grant. Only for a second. It was enough. Grant set his mug down too hard. Coffee splashed over the rim. Daniel, he cut in, voice calm but colder than usual. The quarterly numbers are waiting in your inbox. Daniel smiled like he had just learned something useful. Right. Work first. He walked away, but not before giving me one last look. Claire waited until he was out of earshot. Okay. What was that? Nothing. That did not look like nothing. Grant turned toward us. His expression was controlled, but his eyes were fixed on me. Bennett, my office. Now. Claire's eyebrows lifted. I followed him down the hall, every step making my pulse climb. The moment the door closed, Grant moved toward the window. Did Ross see us? No, you do not know that. Neither do you. He dragged a hand over his face. He was fishing. Then let him fish. Grant looked at me sharply. You do not understand what this could cost. The words hit harder than I expected. I understand exactly what it could cost you. Silence filled the office. His expression changed. Just slightly. That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He took one step closer, then stopped himself. My father still sits on the advisory board. He built half his life around making sure I became someone he could approve of. The anger left his voice, replaced by something tired. If this gets back to him, it will not stay personal. I wanted to stay frustrated. Instead, I noticed his hand trembling beside his leg. Without thinking, I reached for it. My fingers touched his for half a second before he pulled away. Not because he wanted to. Because someone knocked on the door. Claire leaned inside. Sorry. The directors are waiting. Grant nodded, already putting the mask back on. As I moved past him, his hand brushed mine beneath the edge of the desk. Hidden from the doorway. Deliberate this time. Noah, he murmured without looking at me. Please do not make me pretend this is easy. For the rest of the day, Grant avoided being alone with me. He copied Claire on emails that did not need her. He left conference room doors open. When we passed in the hallway, he gave me the same polite nod he gave everyone else. It should have made things easier. Instead, every careful inch of distance felt louder than what had happened in his office. By 6, most of the floor had emptied. I was shutting down my laptop when a message appeared on my screen. Grant Mercer, do not leave yet. My heart started pounding before I could stop it. I waited 5 minutes, mostly so it would not look like I had been waiting all day for him to ask. Then I walked to his office. The door was closed this time. Grant stood near the window with his jacket off and his sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked tired. Not executive tired. Human tired. You wanted to see me? He turned, and for once, he did not tell me to sit. I handled today badly. I folded my arms. Which part? A faint, humorless smile touched his mouth. Most of it. Silence settled between us. He looked toward the hallway, then crossed the room and locked the door. The click made my stomach tighten. Grant, I am not trying to make this worse. Locking the door is not helping. That almost made him laugh. Almost. He leaned against the edge of his desk and rubbed both hands over his face. I have spent years knowing exactly what to say. In meetings. With my family. With the board. His eyes found mine. Around you. I keep getting it wrong. I did not know what to do with that. You told me what almost happened could not happen again. I know. Then you acted like I imagined the whole thing. His jaw tightened. You did not imagine it. The room went still. I stared at him, waiting for the safe explanation. The professional one. It never came. Grant stepped closer, stopping a few feet away. When that man came over at the club, I did not want you to leave with him. My chest tightened. Because you were worried he knew me? No, the answer came immediately. Because I did not like the way he was looking at you. I forgot how to breathe for a second. Grant glanced down, frustrated with himself. I noticed you before that night. His voice dropped. At work. More than I should have. Every excuse I had been using fell apart at once. The coffee. The looks. The way his hand had found mine beneath the desk. Then why keep pushing me away? Because I am your boss. He moved another step closer, careful, like he was approaching something that might break. Because I know what that means. Because I do not ever want you wondering whether you had a choice. And what do you want? Grant held my gaze. There was no fear in his face now. Just conflict. Honest and impossible to miss. I want to go back to Friday night. His hand lifted slightly, then stopped between us. He did not touch me. I want to stop pretending that hallway meant nothing. My pulse jumped. It did not feel like nothing to me. His eyes softened. It did not feel like nothing to me either. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Grant let his hand fall. That is the problem. I shook my head. No. The problem is that you keep deciding what this means without asking me. He looked at me for a long second. Then I am asking now. His voice was barely above a whisper. Do you want me to leave this alone? I should have given him the easy answer. Instead, I stepped closer. No, Grant exhaled like he had been holding his breath since Friday. Good, he murmured. Because I did not want you to leave that night. And I do not want things to go back to normal. For 1 second, I thought Grant was going to close the distance between us. He looked at my mouth, then back at my eyes, and the room went quiet in that dangerous way it had at the club. But instead of moving closer, he stepped back. This cannot happen here. The words hit harder than they should have. I nodded once, trying to keep my face neutral. Right? Of course. Grant's expression tightened. That is not what I meant. You have been saying that a lot. I reached for the door. Noah, wait. His hand moved like he wanted to stop me, but he caught himself before touching my arm. That hesitation told me everything I was already afraid of. He wanted me, maybe, just not enough to risk anything. You asked if I wanted you to leave this alone. I reminded him. I said no. Then you backed away. Because someone could walk in. The door is locked. He glanced toward it anyway. There it was. The fear. Not of me. Of what being near me could cost him. My chest tightened, and suddenly every good thing he had said felt less certain. You are regretting this already. Grant went still. No, then what am I supposed to think? I kept my voice low, but the hurt slipped through. Friday night, you wanted me to stay. Today, you tell me you notice me, then act like standing too close is a disaster. He looked down for a moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. You could lose more than you realize. So could you. I know that. No, you do not. The sharpness in his tone made me flinch. Grant saw it immediately. His face changed. I did not mean it like that. How did you mean it? He turned away, dragging a hand through his hair. If people think you are involved with me, they will question every project you get, every promotion, every good review. His shoulders rose with a slow breath. They will say you earn nothing. That stopped me. He was not only scared for himself. He was scared for me. Still, the feeling in my chest did not ease. Then maybe we should stop. Grant looked at me so quickly it almost hurt to watch. Is that what you want? I forced myself to meet his eyes. I do not know what I want if you are going to treat me like something you have to hide. The silence between us stretched. Then he crossed the room, stopping close but not touching me. You are not something I am ashamed of. It feels like it. His jaw flexed. I am ashamed that I want this when I am the one person who could make it unfair. His honesty landed differently. Not like rejection. More like fear he had been carrying alone for too long. I do not need you to decide for me, I murmured. I need you to trust that I know what I am choosing. Grant held my gaze. His hand lifted slowly, giving me plenty of time to move away. I did not. His fingers brushed mine, then curled around my hand. Not hidden beneath a desk this time. Not accidental. I am trying, he whispered. I looked down at our joined hands. Then why does it feel like goodbye? His grip tightened slightly. Because I found out this morning that Daniel Ross took a picture outside the club. My stomach dropped. Of us. Grant's eyes stayed on mine. I do not know yet. Show me the picture. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Grant let go of my hand and reached for his phone. The loss of contact was immediate. Cold. He opened a message, then held the screen toward me. The photo was blurry, taken from across the street. Grant stood near the club entrance with his back half turned. I was beside him, mostly hidden by the angle. You could not clearly see either of our faces. But anyone who knew Grant well might recognize the jacket. The way he stood. The silver watch he wore every day. Daniel sent this to you? Grant nodded. This morning. He wrote. Interesting place for a late meeting. My stomach twisted. He knows. He suspects. That is close enough. Grant took the phone back and stared at the screen like he could erase the image by looking hard enough. I can handle Daniel. That is not what I am worried about. His eyes lifted. Then what are you worried about? I laughed once, but there was nothing funny in it. You. Doing this thing where you shut me out and call it protection. His expression tightened. I am trying to keep you out of it. I am already in it. Silence. Grant looked toward the locked door, then back at me. Noah, if this gets to the board, then we deal with it. You make that sound simple. It is not simple. I stepped closer. But pretending Friday never happened is not going to fix it. He stayed still. So controlled it made me angry. Say something. His jaw flexed. What do you want me to say? The truth. That word landed between us again, just like it had in the hallway. Grant looked down at his hands. The truth is I have been thinking about you for months. My chest tightened. He kept going before I could respond. I noticed when you changed your coffee order. I noticed when you stopped wearing that blue shirt because Claire spilled toner on it. I noticed every time someone made you laugh in a meeting. His gaze came back to mine, and I hated how relieved I felt when I saw you at that club. I stared at him. Relieved? Because I was not alone. His voice dropped. Then you looked at me like I was still the same person. Not broken. Not embarrassing. Just me. The anger went out of me all at once. Grant took one careful step forward. That scared me more than Daniel's picture. Why? His eyes held mine. Because I wanted you to stay. A pause. I still do. My pulse jumped. Then stop acting like I am a mistake. You are not. Stop calling this impossible. I am trying to be responsible. You are hiding. That hit him. I saw it in the way his shoulders lowered. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Grant reached for my hand again. Slow, giving me time to pull away. I did not. His fingers closed around mine. You are right. The words were quiet. I am hiding. I stepped closer until there was barely any space left between us. And I am done pretending I do not know why. His thumb moved over my knuckles. Noah, do you want this? He swallowed. No speech. No excuse. Just one honest answer. Yes. My heart pounded. Then act like it. Grant looked at me for a long second. Then he lifted our joined hands between us, like he needed to see them to believe this was real. Tomorrow, I am talking to human resources about moving you to another team. I blinked. You already decided that? No, his grip softened. I am asking if that is what you want. For the first time, he was not choosing for both of us. I squeezed his hand. Yes. Grant exhaled slowly. Then he leaned closer, stopping just before our foreheads touched. And after that, I did not move away. After that, you can ask me on a real date. 3 weeks later, I walked into the same club and found Grant waiting inside instead of hiding near the entrance. That was the first thing I noticed. He was not checking the door. He was not standing in the darkest corner. He was sitting at the bar in a navy jacket, turning a glass of club soda between his hands like he had been there for a while. When he saw me, his whole face changed. Not dramatically. Grant did not do anything dramatically, but his shoulders relaxed, and that was enough. You are late, he told me. I checked my phone. By 2 minutes. Still late. You are enjoying not being my boss anymore. A smile pulled at his mouth. More than I should. Human Resources had moved me to Claire's team without much trouble. Grant had removed himself from every decision involving my work before he told anyone why. Daniel's picture never made it past a few private messages. Grant spoke to him directly, and whatever he said ended the conversation. I never asked for details. Some things belonged to Grant. I was learning that choosing someone did not mean forcing every locked door open. Sometimes it meant standing nearby while they found the courage to unlock it themselves. So, I said, taking the seat beside him, is this the part where you ask me out? Grant looked down at his drink. I had something planned. That sounds dangerous. It was a decent plan. His eyes met mine. Then you walked in, and I forgot it. My chest tightened in that familiar way. Only now, I did not have to pretend I did not know what it meant. You could start with dinner. Dinner. He nodded slowly. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. That sounded like a calendar invitation. I can add an agenda if it helps. I laughed, and Grant watched me the way he had admitted he always did. Openly this time. A couple walked past us holding hands. Grant's attention followed them for a second. Then his hand moved across the bar until his fingers rested beside mine. Not touching. Waiting. I turned my palm over. Grant slipped his hand into it. His grip was warm and careful, but he did not pull away when someone sat on the stool beside us. He did not let go when the bartender came over. He just kept holding on. You okay? I asked quietly. Grant looked toward the crowded room, then back at me. No. I raised an eyebrow. He squeezed my hand. But I think I will be. We stayed for one drink. Then we stood and walked toward the exit together. At the door, Grant slowed. Outside, the sidewalk was busy, headlights moving across the wet pavement. 3 weeks earlier, he had been terrified that someone might see him there. Now he took one breath and stepped outside beside me. Our hands were still joined. I expected him to release mine once we reached the street. He did not. We walked half a block before he glanced over. Dinner tomorrow? 7 o'clock. Do not be late. No promises. Grant smiled and pulled my hand a little closer between us. Nothing about it was loud. No announcement. No perfect ending. Just two men walking down an ordinary city street, choosing not to pretend anymore. And somehow, that felt bigger than anything he could have said.